Hey guys, welcome back to the shop for the Eflite Viper90 converted to turbine build series. This is going to be episode number 10, and we're going to install the all the hardware, the smoke tank, the fuel tank, all of the things that we put in place here. This video will capture just about everything we do to finish the model. So without further ado, here we go.
All right, guys, I'm ready to install the fuel tank. That's our next thing here. I've got the umbilical cord in position, and we're going to see if we can slide that tank right into position. And I'm going to hand the camera to Miss Tracy. She's going to try to get this in there. So I'm going to push all the wires to the side, and hopefully this will all just fit snug as a bug in a rug. A little bit tricky. I think we can. I just need to slide this over a little bit. I'll lay all my wires down to maximize the fit in there. I think everything will just slide right into place. Boom, just like that. So, as you can see, I've got my umbilical cord just entering that cavity right there. And then as you look inside the tank, you can see where that umbilical cord just comes out and exits right around the tank in the slipstream. And then you can see, I'll turn this around. You can see where I've got it entering on the EC board, their the ESC board. So I got all my lines for fuel and smoke a little long here, and the little line for the turbine, and that's just in the right position right there. So that's how it'll look. And then we just connect all those when we mount the turbine, which we'll do here in a little bit. Okay, that's for the umbilical cord install. All right, guys, the next step in the process here is we got to install the overflow vents, and these I get these at DreamWorks. I use a high flow for the fuel vent, and I use a standard for the smoke vent, and I pre-attach these lines to the length I'm going to use them. And I have to use these little adapters. This is a 6mm to a 4mm, and I use 3 of these in the model. I use one for the transition for that fuel line or vent line for the smoke side, and this actually is used again to connect from this size to the smoke pump. I believe there's another one there. I think I'm going to use that. But and then this big 3/16 Tygon goes into the vent for the fuel tank. So these are really nice little flush mount deals, and it comes with a little, you can get a little stopper, and that threads on here, and it's really convenient because when you put that on there, that one's got a burr on it or something, when you screw these on, it's got a nice O-ring. You can seal your part compartment, so when you flip the model upside down, fuel's not peeing out all over the ground and all over you and all over the airplane. So you can just screw that in there and flip the model over on its back, and that's one of the things I like, that to seal up that fitting. So these work out really good. They're kind of expensive. You're looking at about $40 for the fittings, but it makes for a really cool install. And so to put these in, all we're going to do is real simple, because I've got the holes already positioned right here in that cavity, and this is going to be the fuel side over here on the left, and I just push that in. and these fit really snug, so I'll just epoxy both of these in. When I get them in position, I'll take some, and you can use anything. You can use RTV silicone, or you can use 5-minute epoxy, either whatever you feel like is necessary to get that in there. I got my little line coming up here. There you go. And you just push that in there. These won't be removed again, so I make sure that fitting's really tight and snug, and that just goes in there like that. And then I put some glue around there, push them in, and then they're sealed up and ready to go. So real simple there. And I got them long again. I exit everything out according to where I want to end up with these. So that'll go like that, and we'll go from there on that. But that'll be, that's real simple. And you can see where they come in right there, right where all the wires and the junctions are. Comes right up through there and takes advantage of that open little area there. Again, that's why we cut out all of those connectors and all that stuff and hardwire the Y in there, because it just frees up that space and for you running all these overflow lines and stuff like that. Okay guys, I've got all my receiver, all the servo leads plugged in, and got the brake gyro all plugged in, and the way that's wired is a little confusing, but I think you guys will get it if you read the instructions. So, get my light here. You can see, whoopsie. You can see down in here, she zooms in. You can see the little cavity down here is pretty full. I've got my fuel tank vent, my smoke tank vent, and the fuel line and the smoke lines coming in this corner right here in that little slot I was telling you about on the fuel tank. It fits really good right in there. So we are now ready to go ahead and double stick tape the fuel tank in and get it in position to secure it. I can see on the tank right here that I got my double stick tape on the bottom of the tank, and also I have a little Velcro strap that I put in here, and that'll go around the receiver just to give it a little added security there. It's not critical, but I did it just so I can sleep better at night. But anyway, so let's go ahead and we'll try to slide that tank into position right here carefully. It's a little tricky, and make sure all our wires stay in the same located spot, because this is pretty much how it's going to end up. So here we go. You don't want that double stick tape to engage, so you gotta be kind of use a little finesse. And I'm going to push that tank all the way back as far as it'll go, and it engages the sidewall there, and all of the servo lines and the fuel lines get into that slot that I was telling you about. And once that happens, you want to leave a little room so that tank is centered, and that looks pretty good right there. I'm pushed back as far as I can go, and nothing is pinched, so I think we're good right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and strap in the fuel tank, or the smoke tank. Make sure that belt or that strap is all the way aft. I'm going to get a good tug on it, and that's going to perfectly engage that tank. Now that tank is solid. It is not moving, sliding, rolling, or anything. And once that tape cures, then that'll be good on my fuel line. So my gyro will get double stick taped right here, and the receiver, it's got the Velcro double stick on it right here. It will get placed right here and pushed back underneath this little strap. And we'll see if we can get this strap to come out. I'm going to hold off on actually sticking it. I just wanted you guys to see the process before I permanently double stick it, but it's going to go in there just about there, and you can see you can tuck wires in back into that cavity. You got about 1/4 of an inch between the tank and the smoke tank for that wire to push down and exit into that cavity. So when you double stick tape this in place, then you can take this strap, this Velcro strap, and it'll go right over the receiver nameplate, kind of like this, and hold that snug into place. Now again, the double stick tape is going to secure it, so it's not going to slide. You're not going to come loose in flight or anything. That strap is just an additional paranoia will destroy you kind of thing. But that's it. I mean, you've got your vent lines, and I leave these along here, and then I have a fitting that I connect that with right here. And then the brake gyro again will be double stuck right there, and you can tuck your wires in, and that went in pretty good. That's a lot of tedious wire management here. And again, you can tuck everything back into that cavity. It's got enough room back there to do all that tidiness and tucking all that stuff in there. But if you do it right and you have the least amount of wires, then you're going to have a little extra room to work with. Your ECU plug will plug into the hub right here, and then so that was that step of getting the tank in. So the next thing we'll do is we'll secure these permanently in the aircraft, and then we'll go ahead and mount the UAT and the smoke pump, and we'll get our lines and all that set up next, and that'll be that part of the process. So that was good for that phase. All right, guys, we got all of the things tucked away, the wiring, the brake gyro, the receiver is all double-sided taped in, servo taped in. All the wires are tucked in real neat. I take a pair of forceps here, and I just tuck the wires down into that cavity down underneath there, so you get all of those wires pulled in there, and it neatens up your install, and it kind of keeps everything compact and in order. So you're kind of packing, like I said, 5 pounds of crap in a 2-pound bag. So I got everything down in that little tiny cavity that is packed in there. It's not full, but it's pretty snug in there. I've got the gyro, receiver, all of it is plugged in. I've got my smoke pump and the lines all plugged in. I'm using 4mm fuel line for the smoke line, and there's a reducer right here that steps it down off the pump, and then the vent lines are all plugged in. This extra excess here will be, I'll make a loop for the smoke tank, so that helps on siphoning out the bottom. I've got my fuel line, or my fuel vent line, all plugged in, and I have kind of a loop right here. This is all 3/16, and I've got that pushed back into the slot right here, so that's a nice little loop there for fuel, and that works really good. I've got my light module in place. It's snug as a bug in a rug. Everything is laid in. another thing I did at this stage of the game is before I glued down everything with the double-sided tape, I put the airplane together to make sure everything was working. And I found on this AG63 brake gyro, the instruction was actually wrong. And they had these servo leads and the gear and the rudder leads, they had it flipped. And it wasn't working, and I was beating my head over trying to figure it out. And then I just started unplugging things and trying something different, and it was the opposite of what the instructions said. So coming out of the receiver, it tells you to plug in at the bottom of this port, and it's actually the top. So they had that reversed in the instructions, at least on this gyro. So anyway, once I got it reversed, everything is working, and I got it set, and so the gyro is going the right way. And like I said, I got everything fitted, the ailerons, flaps, gear, everything's working. So once I got all that done, my wires were all exactly where they need to be, and double check on that. And then I plug in my hub for the Zyko X45. I've got my pump, and I've got my data terminal lead here. Everything is in position. The only thing I really changed that I missed it on was I needed another 2 inches on the rudder back here on the extension. The stock extension was about 2 inches short, so I just spliced in another 2-inch lead there so I can get that rudder to fit on there. Outside of that, my custom wiring worked out really well. So everything is set. I got my little Velcro strap, safety strap here that's tugged on the receiver, holding that in, and I've got all my wires tucked underneath there. So everything is coming along really well. Now the next step is I'm going to go ahead and bolt down the smoke pump with my servo screws and the UAT. And before I do that, I fit all the lines in. So the lines are all fit right there. And then on the UAT, I've got my fill line, my tank to UAT lines already pre-cut, and my line going to the pump is already pre-cut. The only thing I changed on this UAT, and if you're talking to Tom Cook at Jet Model Products, you want to tell him to put the plug on the bottom of the horizontal UAT. That gives us clearance for the smoke tank instead of that fill line being down here and trying to pinch it off. I put the plug down here and put the fittings up here, and that helps with the arrangement a little bit. And I added this 1/8-inch ply little spacer right here on the bottom to raise up the UAT just that much to give me a little more clearance, and it's just about perfect. So that was the only really modification that I did on Tom Cook's Jet Model Products small UAT. I've got my fill, my Kent dry brake fittings already positioned in. So now all we're going to do is we're going to screw in the servo screws on the pump and the UAT, and then I'm going to go ahead and I got my fuel pump slash gear well cover all tightened down with these screws. I've got the safety wire on the output side. I've got my reducer right here, so it's all pre-positioned. That's just going to go in place down here, and that's just going to get glued in finally. I'll probably just use 5-minute epoxy and just nicely glue that in, and then everything is going to be in position. This is going to be where my shutoff valve goes, right in this position. So I've got everything really pretty much pre-cut. So I'm going to go ahead and put those screws in now, and then we'll come back to that here in just a few seconds. All right, guys, we've got everything in place. Everything's tied down. Everything is bolted in. This is the final look of the Talco Oils Eflite Viper90 converted to turbine with smoke. This is it. You've got the AG63 gyro, the receiver, the hub over here for the Zykoy X45. I've got the data terminal in position right here behind the fuel pump. We've got the smoke pump, the JMP accumulator, my shut-off valve right here. We've got the smoke fill valve with our dry brake fittings, and then we've got our fuel tank dry brake fitting that goes here. I've got my SLR2 antenna here and back here in the right above the fuel tank. All the wiring down here is all perfectly in length. The plug for the battery is right here, so it's just an easy shot. All my wires are all tucked in really nice. Here's my light, Unilight controller here, just tucked in right there. So nothing can move. The wires are all positioned perfectly. It's like I was telling you guys, it's 5 pounds of crap packed in a 2-pound bag, and there's a little bit of room for little things, but it fills up that cavity pretty well. And fully functional, and it should be almost in perfect CG when the smoke tank is empty. You do have a little bit of a nose heavy situation in flight while the smoke pulls off, but it's not super critical. It's not really that big of a deal. But it flies great, and this is the final pictures and how it looks. So if you guys want to do it, everything's store-bought. All these fittings are off the shelf. Just a few modifications that we shared earlier about where I put things and why I put them there. So that's it. And the only thing left to do now is just go ahead and mount the turbine, and I'll show you guys how I do that in this next segment. All right, guys, we're ready to install the turbine. I've got my smoke line hooked up to the line here, and I've got my fuel line cut to length, and then I just have to plug in this. You can see we're tied down here to the ESC board with a small tie wrap that just kind of captures all those lines in that split loom right there, and it holds it in place, and it doesn't flop around and move around. So again, we're using the custom little plates I made, and we're using the back 2 screws, which are using the stock hard points that came with the Turbine Viper, or came with the Eflite Viper. So Tracy's going to hold this out of the way. I'm going to take this and we're going to plug this little guy in. Really easy. Right here. And you want to make sure you get that thing fully engaged and it's tight. And I'm just going to push her in. Actually, I'm going to wind that this way. Push this in, forward. Clear the bell mouth. And then back in this position. And then I'm going to take my smoke line. Hold this one. And this is held in place by this little slider guy here. And it goes inside the bell mouth, and it will use this back hold down bolt that holds the turbine in place. So I just tighten it down right like that, and then my other screws for this side here line up, and that's really it. All I got to do now is make my put my fuel line on. So these are nice little not Phillips, but socket style panhead screws that work really good for this. And that's it. That's mounting the turbine in place. Sometimes these screws don't want to start. I don't know if that one's got a little burr on it. It might have a little bit of a... There it goes. Going in. And just snug those down. So now all I have to do is pull this fuel line cap out. And we're going to purge the line here when we're ready to go. I'm just getting everything in position to show you guys how we do it. And this line will be shortened a little bit. And then the motor's in place. That's simple. It takes 5 minutes to bolt it in, disconnect, connect, whatever, and you're good to go. So that's mounting the turbine.
All right, guys, back in the shop. Today's conclusion of the Eflite Viper90 converted to turbine build series is finally complete. This is the Talco Oils Lube Spar 107 Special. This airplane is the Generation 2 smoke system. I upgraded it to the 16-ounce smoke tank to give us a little more smoke, and I changed a little bit of the configuration of where the receiver went. So you guys just witnessed all of the different segments that I made for this particular model in part in that build series. So this is how it looks. Today was the day I got it all together and on its gear for the first time. It turned out beautiful. It's got the Unilight system on it with the nav lights and the strobe lights and the beacons and the headlight. So that was really fun to do. I might make a separate video on how I did that when I do the next Viper, which is going to be a surprise Viper coming up in the next few months. A third rendition of what I'm doing here. Again, if you guys need any parts or any of the little specialty pieces that I make for this model, feel free to reach out to me at the lightspeedairshow.com website. You can find me on there, or just email me at dennis@lightspeedairshow.com. But it's been a great project. Thank you guys for your support, watching all the videos, patience with me and my life and all the other stuff that I do, trying to get all this stuff done. There's nothing like this conversion. Nobody else that I know of is doing it except me, and I hope a lot of guys will follow me and follow how this airplane works together with the system and the components that I use, because it's a flawless foam turbine airplane. It's just a wonderful model. But we're going to wrap it up here. Again, thank you for all of you watching, and please like and subscribe. And if you want to know more about our Lightspeed Air Show, you guys can reach out at the lightspeedairshow.com. Check us out online. From the human side of STEM, we're signing off. We'll see you at the flying field.